What up, athletes? Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the fire at Sharon's Mall in downtown Georgetown, Guyana. And last week I gave a preview of the footage that I took touring the inside of the building after the fire. And today I want to describe or discuss for you three of the issues that come up with fire in Guyana. Fire is a highly political issue in Guyana. Fire, particularly in the business district, has been used as a way to avoid losses by simply claiming insurance. You know, business doing badly, they start the business, set the business on fire, and then claim losses from the insurance company. And fire has had a bad reputation of being started because of poor regulations, poor building codes and building regulations in Guyana. So those are the three issues I want to talk about with the Sharon Mall fire. Now, the first one is political. Fire is a highly political issue in Guyana, and that's because over the years, fire has been used by the political powers that be to erase records. For example, at the end of the 2015 election cycle, the PP government set most of the ministries on fire. Remember, the Ministry of Housing was set on fire, the Ministry of Health was set on fire, and that's because they wanted to destroy records. And so Guyana has always had a very bad political history where fires have been used for terrorism and for as a way to destroy evidence of, you know, crime. This, however, may not have been a political fire, a fire of political motivation, but there's definitely a problem with business fires in Guyana where a number of buildings have gone up in flames around the city. Since I've been back, you know, more than 7 years ago, I've seen about, I would say, 6 fires in Georgetown where businesses were burnt. Eventually, new buildings were built in the location where those businesses were burned. So, for example, where the Republic Bank on Camp Street is located, that used to be Kissoon's furniture store. Remember that? For those of you who've been, you know, in Guyana in the 80s, that used to be the big store, the marquee store for Kissoon's furniture. That fire destroyed the furniture store, and now there is a bank, a Republic Bank there. And across the street, there is a huge teleperformance building. But when I came back in 2013, 2014, there were old buildings at that intersection. A fire was set, or fire of unknown origin, destroyed those buildings, and now you have the teleperformance buildings, those 4 or 5-story buildings at the corner of Robb Street and Camp Street. And Robb Street and King Street, there was a fire there more recently. There are some of the cinemas that went up in flames. So fire, Regent Street, in fact, recently, less than 6 months ago, there were fires on Regent Street where buildings that housed businesses were burnt. There was another fire, I remember, about a year and a half ago on Regent Street where another business was burned. So fires have been used by the business community in Guyana to hide losses, to cover losses, and insurance companies know this, and they've basically been used to cover business losses. And that is why this fire is so important, because this is a fire that occurred in a business establishment, a 5-story building at the corner of Charlotte Street and King Street. And when I showed up there on Friday, the fire had been burning since Sunday. So remember, the fire started on Sunday. Okay guys, so this fire started on Sunday, the 2nd of May. In fact, it started early in the day, and it wasn't put out until late in the evening. This is the corner of Charlotte Street and King Street in downtown Georgetown. At the end of the street, you can see there is the building that houses the land registry. And then this is the remnants of the fire. Fire burned all 5 stories of the Sharon's Mall. And if you look closely, you can see there's still smoke coming from the building 6 days after. So this is 7th of March, and there's still smoke coming from the embers in the building 6 days later. And what's worrisome about this fire is that I actually did a tour of this building in 2018, I believe, 2017 or 2018. And I remember interviewing some of the proprietors, one of the proprietors there who had a hairdressing salon, and she was telling me about some of the products. You can go back and take a look at that video where I did a tour of the building and looked at each floor, all of the proprietors on each floor, and did an interview with this young lady who was telling me about the products she sold. So the problem with this fire is that it occurred in a business premises that housed multiple boutiques, multiple stores, and multiple proprietors. It was not just the owner of the building that was affected, but dozens of small business owners who were destroyed. I remember, now this is looking back east on Charlotte Street, and you notice the building is located across from the courts. This is the High Court, and this fire could have spread to burn much, much more than the Sharon's Mall, but in fact it was contained to the Sharon's Mall, even though it lasted all day on Sunday. I understand that the reason why they couldn't put it out is because the fire service people did not know the layout of the building, did not have floor plans, and did not want to risk going into this building, which was closed on a Sunday, to find the fire and to put it out. So this is King Street and Charlotte Street. King Street and Charlotte Street corner. And as I was saying, inside the building, there were these stores. I remember there was a large hairdressing salon at the northern end of the building. There were lots of clothing stores on the third floor, and there were offices for the various law firms on the top floor, that is the fifth floor of the building. On the ground floor, there were these small commissaries that sold trinkets and items. I remember buying ink for my inkjet printer on the ground floor of this building. So this building actually housed a number of small business owners, and the issue I'm addressing here is the fact that businesses have been known to set fires to these premises when the business is doing badly. But I don't know that this is the problem. This is the case here. In fact, no one knows what the origin of this fire is. The problem is that even if the owner of this building wanted to replace this location with a new building, it would have affected dozens and dozens of proprietors, small business people, if this building was set on fire maliciously. So I don't believe this was a fire of malicious origin, although we've had a history of that in the business community in Guyana. It is highly unfortunate, though, because you can imagine millions of dollars of merchandise were destroyed and dozens of people lost their livelihoods and their inventory and their stock. If you go through the building, so if you go through the wreckage, I'm now looking at the building from the east and northern corner of the building. That's the Sharon's Mall sign. And I'm going to go through the garage door and see the inside of the building. But what I was saying is that if you go through this building, you will see that a number of items that were merchandise, inventory from the stores have been destroyed by this fire. Now, people speculated that the reason for this fire is that it was a electrical fire, that somehow poor electrical installations, perhaps wiring, faulty wiring, electrical construction was responsible for this fire, which brings me to the third topic, which is poor regulation, poor building code enforcement and regulation. In this case, in the case of electrical contractors putting in electrical fittings and fixtures in the building. Now, I'm not going to blame the electrical contractors. What I'm going to do is to point out the fact that we do have a very lax enforcement regime for building codes and regulation in Georgetown, and the fact that this building is speculated to have been destroyed because of an electrical fire highlights again the issue that we have with poor review of work done by contractors, and poor enforcement of building codes. This is a 4-story building, which I thought was in fact an improvement over the wood construction of previous generations of buildings. This was a steel and concrete building. It had a steel frame, and so the frame of the building is still standing, but as you notice, the fire burned so hot that the floors collapsed. The floors of the building collapsed and destroyed everything. Guys. That's my take on the fire at Sharon's Mall in Georgetown, Guyana. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. In the comments below, tell me what you think about the history and the origin of fires and fire in Guyana, as far as building codes, poor regulation, and poor fire review of these buildings by the fire service for code violations and worthiness, particularly in this case of a building that housed the public. What do you think can be done, should be done? What kinds of regulations are enforced in your neighborhood, in your neck of the woods where you are in another country, for example, and how we can improve our record of fire safety in Guyana. Remember, share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening here in Georgetown, Guyana. Later!